Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel Frontline Conflict Tactical Skies. Please subscribe and like my videos. Today, we're diving into one of the most shocking and strategically significant moments since the full-scale invasion of Ukraine began. A massive blast has struck the heart of Moscow, a city once believed to be untouchable. This isn't just another strike. It's a powerful statement with global implications, shaking the Kremlin's image of control and sending shockwaves through military and political circles worldwide. For months, Moscow had been portrayed as a fortress far from the front lines, a place where life carried on untouched while the war raged hundreds of kilometers away. But that illusion shattered in a single morning. Just before dawn, a huge explosion ripped through a key area of Moscow that houses government, intelligence, and energy facilities. Residents were jolted awake by a deafening blast. Windows shattered across several blocks, and thick black smoke towered over the city skyline. Emergency sirens wailed as fire crews and soldiers rushed to the scene. Russia's Ministry of Defense claimed it intercepted multiple drones. But satellite images and open-source analysts confirmed at least one strike hit a sensitive logistical hub believed to support Russia's war operations. The blast was so powerful that Moscow's security forces sealed off entire neighborhoods. Military convoys appeared across intersections, and anti-aircraft systems were visibly deployed on rooftops. State media at first dismissed the incident, but later switched to cautious language, admitting an incident under investigation without details. Meanwhile, Ukrainian officials neither confirmed nor denied involvement. But senior intelligence sources hinted this was the beginning of a new phase, signaling a shift from defensive resistance to strategic strikes. Deep inside Russian territory, the civilian impact was immediate. Dozens were injured by shattered glass and debris. Entire apartment blocks were evacuated, and panic spread on social media before sensors could act. For ordinary Muscovites, this was a shocking moment. The distant war they saw only on TV had arrived at their doorstep. Emergency shelters opened for the first time since the conflict began. Schools shut down in some districts, and long queues formed outside shops and gas stations. People suddenly felt vulnerable, something Russia had worked hard to prevent. The psychological shock of war reaching Moscow is almost as significant as the physical damage itself. Internationally, the reaction was swift. NATO and Western governments closely monitored the situation. Officials in Washington described the attack as demonstrating remarkable operational reach, but avoided directly blaming Ukraine. European leaders voiced concern over possible escalation, while Moscow accused the West of enabling the strike through intelligence and technology. The Kremlin's narrative framed it as part of a larger Western plot to destabilize Russia from within. China, trying to walk a diplomatic tightrope, urged restraint but didn't condemn Kyiv, signaling discomfort without breaking ranks with Moscow. The military implications are serious. For months, Russia concentrated its best air defense systems near the Ukrainian front lines to counter relentless missile and drone attacks. That left its heartland less protected, a weakness analysts had warned about repeatedly. This strike exposed those vulnerabilities. Experts believe Moscow may now redeploy advanced systems back to the capital, potentially giving Ukraine more breathing space at the front. It's a tactical shift that could ripple across battlefields in Donetsk, Zaporizhia, and elsewhere. At the same time, Ukraine has demonstrated it can project power deep into Russian territory using drones and precision intelligence, eroding the Kremlin's aura of invulnerability. Politically, this puts Putin's regime in a bind. Admitting the full scale of the incident undermines the state's image of control. Minimizing it risks appearing detached from reality. Putin held an emergency security meeting, vowing a firm response. Behind the scenes, reports suggest growing frustration among Russian security elites over repeated intelligence failures. Nationalists are demanding brutal retaliation, while exiled opposition figures are using the blast to highlight the regime's weaknesses. This mix of pressure from hardliners and critics could deepen political tensions inside Russia if similar incidents occur again. For Ukraine, the attack carries both high reward and high risk. It shows striking capability and boosts morale among Ukrainians and allies. It also sends a clear message: Russia's heartland is not safe, but it may provoke unpredictable Russian retaliation. Past Ukrainian strikes inside Russia were followed by intensified bombardments of Ukrainian cities. The Kremlin could now escalate further, targeting energy networks and urban centers in retaliation. Ukrainian planners are weighing these risks carefully, aware that deep strikes bring both strategic leverage and potentially LOWBACK. In the information war, both sides are pushing competing narratives. Russian media calls the strike a terrorist attack, portraying civilians as victims. Ukrainian and independent analysts argue it was a legitimate hit on a military logistics hub fueling an aggressive war. Social media footage spread globally within minutes, making it impossible for either side to fully control the story. The image of Moscow, the Kremlin center of power, under attack carries immense psychological weight. It shows that modern warfare isn't confined to the front lines. It can reach the symbolic core of a nation. Globally, the Moscow blast has raised dangerous questions about escalation. Could continued deep strikes push Russia to intensify hybrid warfare in Europe, expand cyber attacks, or resort to unconventional tactics? Some analysts warn of unpredictable responses if the Kremlin feels cornered. Others say such strikes may slowly weaken Russia's war effort by forcing it to defend on multiple fronts. Either way, the geographic boundaries of this conflict are widening. The front lines are no longer just trenches and towns in eastern Ukraine. They now include the skies over Moscow and the psychological battlefield of public perception. As both sides adapt, Ukraine is ramping up long-range drone production with Western intelligence support, while Russia is fortifying its internal defenses, adding radar systems, mobilizing civilian volunteers, and tightening information control. Life in Moscow has changed overnight. People scan the skies, businesses review security plans, and the government floods media with patriotic messages to maintain confidence. In the end, this blast is more than an explosion. It's a strategic turning point. It shattered Moscow's image of untouchability, exposed military weaknesses, rattled civilians, and injected new volatility into the global geopolitical landscape. For Ukraine, it was a bold demonstration of resolve. For Russia, a wake-up call. And for the world, a stark reminder that this war is evolving, fast, unpredictably, dangerously. What happens next will depend on how both sides respond in the critical weeks ahead. One thing is clear: the war has entered a new and more dangerous phase.